These are the full results for the 2018 Mr. Olympia contest. Placings are in the furthest right column. So we'll start 8th position with Nathan Diasha. In 7th, Dexter Jackson. 6th, Big Ramy. 5th, Brandon Curry. 4th, William Bonac. 3rd, Rolly Winkler. 2nd, Phil Heath. And 1st, Shawn with his first title win. These are just my opinions. I'm just going to form conclusions from what I see. I'm not meaning to bash anyone. Couple of honourable mentions here with Nathan Diasha in 8th position. Thought it looked really impressive actually. Great tight waist, especially considering his size. Just needs to work on his hamstring development and improve his glute tightness on some of the rear shots. Dexter Jackson, pretty consistent as usual. Perhaps not quite as tight as we've seen him. A little bit of a trophy on the left arm as well. I think his trainer wasn't there for the show, which perhaps affected him. Just wish he'd hold his abdomen a little bit tighter on the side shot. Seemed to bulge out a bit, which ruins his flow. Hopefully next year he can come back and work on that left arm trophy a little bit and place even higher for his 20th showing. Now on to the first call out, top 6. I'm going to talk now a little bit about Big Ramy and Brandon Curry. So Big Ramy looks pretty impressive in a lot of shots in some areas, but fairly lacklustre in others. There seems to be a lack of detailing and separation in his upper body. His waist is blocky, needs to suck it in. If you look at Rolly Winkler next to him, Rolly Winkler has that absolutely nailed. He's improved that so much over the last couple of years. Sucking his waist in. Big Ramy needs to try and do that because he just looks blocky. From the side though, his side of the thigh looks absolutely fantastic. Probably the best side thigh shot in the whole lineup, I'd say. But again, from the front, there's just no detail. The thighs are kind of washed out and there's no real separation between the pecs and the shoulders and the arm muscles and no real striations to talk of. Clearly, monstrous in size, but being large and being massive doesn't always mean looking muscular. If you take William Bonac, for example, clearly smaller, but the muscles are very dense. They're very densely packed and therefore sometimes looks more impressive than someone that's a lot bigger, heavier, but doesn't have that conditioning and doesn't have that level of detail and kind of almost muscle density, I guess, with the smaller insertions. So another area that Ramy struggles with is sucking the waist in on the side shots. Needs to work on that. Just ruins the flow of his physique. But again, struggling with the separation on his upper torso, the detailing. Just needs to come in a little bit harder, a little bit more conditioned in the front thighs and the upper torso in general, and I think he'd fare a lot better. So we go on to Brandon Curry now. Overall, very impressive showing. He's clearly improved a lot over the last couple of years, added a lot of muscle mass, and I'm pleased to say that he's kept his aesthetics for the most part. Sometimes looks a little bit bulbous in the midsection, but still has a great abdomen, nicely defined ab muscles. Just I think needs to work on his lower thigh development and the conditioning of his glutes and hamstrings. Just overall had a bit more muscle mass, I think. I think that's why Bonac got the nudge over Brandon Curry. But me personally, I would have been happy to have either seen Brandon Curry or Bonac in the 4th position. I just like the flow of Brandon Curry. But I mean, you look at this shot from Bonac. Most muscular, looks fantastic. Very good striations in the front delts and the pecs. Fantastic separation in the arms. Very, very solid quad muscles. Just in terms of overall muscle density, clearly has a nod over Brandon Curry, who tends to look a little bit more wiry when standing next to Bonac, which is why I think Bonac got the nod over him in 4th spot. So we're on to the top 4 now. William Bonac, very, very solid, very symmetrical body actually, and very balanced across all muscle areas. Nice taper. Can't really fault him really. I think he's kind of maxed out his frame, so to speak, got as much muscle mass as he can. Just needs to watch now the spillover on his oblique area over the side of his trunks, which a lot of these bodybuilders do struggle with. I guess if you're taking that much amount of steroids, then everything becomes really sensitive to growth, and that's why you get muscle mass in large amounts that you wouldn't usually see in natural guys, like the abdomen and like the guts and stuff. Bonac here, really impressive striations in his upper torso and some of the quad feathering as well. Much the same as Rolly Winkler. Rolly Winkler in third position, fantastic showing from him. Clearly the best we've seen so far, I think. Unbelievable amounts of mass and good separation in the upper body as well. Nice pectoral striations. Just needs to work on the lower thigh, sort of the lower torso, the thigh separation, detailing, especially in the hamstrings and quads. Obviously not up to par as the other three in this top four, even though William Bonac finished behind him. I think just the sheer muscle mass of Rolly Winkler in the key areas, the arms and delts and pecs, nudges Winkler over Bonac. But I think it was probably close between those two. I think Rolly Winkler has potential to win the Mr. Olympia in the years to come, definitely, especially considering Phil Heath seems to be on a slight decline now over the last few years. Still fantastic in a lot of shots. You know, I'd go as far to say that he has the best rear lat spread and possibly the best rear delt, rear double bicep out of this lineup. But lacks a lot of the oomph in some of the other shots. The side shots he struggles with due to his abdomen, keeping it tight. Fairly, you know, well held in this shot here, but doesn't quite have the tightness that we'd expect in the hamstrings, the glutes, and some of the upper arm region that going into the shoulders just has a little bit of perhaps water, a little bit of film over those areas. Not quite as tight as we've seen him, not as tight as Bonac on the right. Clearly struggles with the ab shots as well. Going back to the obliques, you know, he's a real big perpetrator of the spillover on the obliques. It just ruins the flow of the physique. I wish a lot of the guys would hold the legs out straight on the ab shot and the most muscular. It just looks more aesthetic in my opinion, showing off the quad feathering. They tend to hold the knees bent. It just looks a bit naff in my opinion. They're trying to show off more upper thigh separation, but I think it's just preferred to hold the legs out straight. As Rolly Winkler's doing here, you know, the muscle mass just looks much more impressive, much more dense, just above the kneecap. So Shawn Rhoden, I think a deserved win, a very balanced physique, great conditioning, as you can see by this quad. This is what I was just talking about. The quad feathering with the leg out straight looks much more impressive. Very reminiscent of Kai Green when he used to do the most muscular, the ab thigh shot. Great striations in his shoulders as well. Very, very pleased that Shawn Rhoden won, one of the more aesthetic guys. Just wish he'd have a little bit more separation in his arms. They seem a little bit watery, a little bit puffy. I don't really know why, but not quite as detailed as I would have liked to see, especially considering that his lower torso is clearly very, very lean. Needs a little bit more triceps, and some shots just needs to hold the midsection a little bit more, especially on the side shots, and he'd improve his look massively. He'd be, you know, a real contender for one of the most aesthetic bodybuilders over the last 20 years or so, you know, Flex Wheeler's territory. If he could just work on his triceps and tightening that waist a little bit. Overall, that's just my opinion, guys. My rundown of the Olympia. Very pleased with the results. I think probably Rolly could have pipped Phil Heath to second, but you know, I think it's inevitable at some point anyway, so I don't think it's a big deal particularly. I'd like to know your thoughts on this year's Olympia, what you think of my critique as well on the bodybuilders and the placings and what have you. Remember, bodybuilding is subjective. You know, everyone is entitled to an opinion. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to see more. Click on the notification button as well to be made aware of any videos I do upload. Stay strong.